Okay, so we're dedicating today's class to Avram ben Nachum Yoel, whose yahrzeit is today. Um, his neshama should have an aliyah, should be a gutta better for your entire family, and he should be a gutta better for Klal Yisrael to get Mashiach to come already. And all these days of mourning should turn into days of joy. We should be in Yerushalayim before Tisha B'Av. Okay. So we're going to do something a little bit different this time. And chapters 1 to 14 is kind of its own unit. We asked questions in chapter 1, which were answered in chapter 14. And now we're starting, we're going up a level. So what I'd like to do is I would like to try to learn Tanya inside as well. So if you have your phone, you could just go to Google and do chapter 27 Tanya, and it will come up. And then you could follow, yeah, and then you could follow along if you want.
Why is chapter 27?
I'm sorry, chapter 15. Okay. Chapter 27 is something else. Yeah, I apologize. I say chapter 27 every day, so I got confused. Okay, so chapter 15. Yeah, even if you just go to Google, it should come up. Tanya, chapter 15. Okay. So just to summarize where we are, how did we get here? So in the first chapter of Tanya, right in the beginning, we asked a question. The question is that every soul is made to take an oath before they come down here, promise to be a tzaddik and not to be a rasha. And we have to understand what is the meaning of this oath that we took. And it takes until, hello, welcome. It takes until chapter 14 to answer that question. And we said, and we discussed, the different categories of people, tzaddik, Benini, and rasha. And we said that a tzaddik is something that, we could aspire to, but it's not an expectation. A tzaddik is someone who's perfect on the inside and the outside. A rasha is the one who struggles. And the Benini is someone who is perfect on the outside and is struggling on the inside like a rasha. And what's the meaning of this oath? Be a tzaddik and don't be a rasha. So we said, mashbiim, which means to swear. First of all, the psychology of a swear. When you swear be a tzaddik, then it holds you responsible. You take more responsibility. And also we said mashbiim, if without the vowels, it could be masbiim. Masbiim means to be filled up. So before the neshama comes down here, it is filled up with power to be a tzaddik and not to be a rasha. And it's true that we can't, most of the time, most people cannot actually be a tzaddik, but we could have tzaddik moments. A tzaddik is someone who loves everything that Hashem loves and hates everything that Hashem hates. And we have those moments as much as we can. And if we can't fully be a tzaddik, at least don't be a rasha, which is basically means be a Benini in between. And at the end of chapter 14, we said that if a person does whatever they could to be the best that they can be, then it's possible that Hashem will gift them with and attach to their neshama, a neshama of a tzaddik, either a tzaddik that lived, that lived before, or a tzaddik that lives presently, to attach to their neshama, and then they could have a tzaddik experience, and then there is a possibility to actually fulfill the oath in a literal way, be a tzaddik and don't be a rasha, because if you have the neshama of a tzaddik attached to you, then you are truly a tzaddik. That's how we ended last time. Now in chapter 15, we're going to talk about advice for the Benini. Now, so the Benini is what we're aspiring to be. We're aspiring to have self-control on the outside, and our thought, speech, and action we're perfect, although we still struggle. Wow, that's a Tanya from the Rebbe.
It's fine.
That blue one.
I don't have it, so this is great. Do you need one?
Yeah, we're going to learn a little bit inside.
We could share.
Yeah.
I'll show them. Thank you.
Okay. So Uvaze yuvan. Uvaze, based on all this, based on the last 14 chapters of Tanya, yuvan will be understood. Mashakasu, what it says. V'shaftem uri'isem ben tzadik l'rasha ben oved elakim la'asher loy avadai. Sit down, relax, and think about the difference and see the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha. Should I help you find a place?
Yes.
Okay. And between one who serves Hashem, Tesvav. Between one who serves Hashem and between one who doesn't serve. So at first glance, it seems like I'm going to make a chart and I'm going to put tzaddik on one side and rasha on the other side. And one who serves is probably a tzaddik, and one who doesn't serve is probably a rasha. However, that can't be the case. Here. Because Torah doesn't repeat itself. Torah is not repeating anything for poetic, the poetic license. So if it says you have to know the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha, between one who serves Hashem and one who doesn't, it's talking about two different things. It's not repeating that someone who serves is someone who is serving is a tzaddik, and one who is not serving is a rasha, but rather it's two levels. One who is serving and one who is not serving are two levels of a Beinani. Now let's remind ourselves, a Beinani is someone who is perfect in thought, speech, and action. Yes, they struggle on the inside like a rasha, but they're perfect like a tzaddik on the outside. So there you're talking about someone who has a very healthy, amazing relationship with Hashem. They're righteous, they're pious, they're perfect on the outside. And yet, is it possible to be this Beinani? And within Beinani, there's two categories. One who is serving and one who is not serving. And the question that we're going to address today is, how could you be perfect in your thought, speech, and action and still consider to be not serving Hashem? Welcome. Okay. Okay, just to recap where we're holding. Okay, also we're trying to follow a little bit in the Tanya. So no problem. We're chapter 15 of Tanya. If you go to Google, you just do chapter 15 Tanya to come on your phone. Otherwise, you could look on. Yeah.
And sometimes you're going in.
It's really a very amazing experience. Okay, so basically, what does it say? Yuvan, and with everything that we learned until now, we're going to understand what it says. There's this pasuk from Malachi, which is Navi, and it says V'shaftem uri'isem. Tesva, is it? So there's 5 different parts of Tanya. So we're the first. We're the first part of Tanya.
Oh, I was like, look through. I'm like, wow, it goes so quickly in the beginning was what I was thinking. Okay. In the beginning.
Tesva, Lakut Imar. Yes, you see it? So this is a quote from the prophet Malachi, and he says, you have to understand the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha, between one who is serving Hashem and one who is not serving Hashem. And we just said that serving and not serving, it's not that a tzaddik is serving and a rasha is not serving, but rather you have to understand there's no repetition. So you have to understand the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha. Yeah. And you also have to understand the difference between someone who is serving Hashem and one who is not serving. And that's not someone who's serving as a tzaddik, one who's not serving as a rasha, but rather it's talking about something else. What is it talking about? 2 levels in a Beinani. The Beinani, the one who is perfect on the outside, in every thought, speech, and action, there's 2 possibilities. You could either be serving or not serving. You're perfect in thought, speech, and action, and you're considered to be not serving. And you have to understand, how is that possible? What does it mean that you're so perfect, you're so righteous, you're so pious, but you're not serving? What does that mean? Okay, so first of all, the word is Oyved Elokim, and we translate it as one who is serving God. But let's get real. When we say Avadim Hayinu Leparb Mitzrayim, what's an Eved? What's the definition of an Eved?
Slave.
A slave. A slave even has a worse connotation than a servant.
But one of these servants and Hashem, not a slave.
Okay, so slave and a servant, okay? A servant might be just like a nicer way of saying slave, okay? But let's say slave, okay? Let's feel uncomfortable with the word slave for a minute. It's okay. What's the difference between a slave and an employee?
One gets paid.
Okay, one gets paid.
One can leave and one can't.
One could leave, one can't.
So we don't want to leave Hashem.
Right. So in halacha,
For our servant.
absolutely.
Back to your question on the first thing.
What was the question on the first thing? Oh, right, that we're getting paid. But that's not the purpose.
The question is, what is this concept of serving or being a slave? How is that so different than being an employee or a worker?
You want to serve. But if you're a slave, you don't necessarily want to be a slave.
But you could leave at any.
It's your choice, so you're choosing you want to serve. You chose to serve.
An employee has his own role and slave doesn't. It's ours to serve.
So everyone is saying excellent points. Let's just talk about a slave versus an employee, like in real life. Then we'll talk about Hashem in a second, okay? But the difference between a slave and an employee, ultimately, a slave. When you think of a slave, you think of someone who's doing back-breaking labor, someone who's really exerting themselves and schwitzing and working really, really hard, struggling. Versus an employee, you come to the office, you have your coffee, you're getting paid for it. You don't like it, you leave. It's a 9 to 5 job. You have your own time after work. And if the boss calls you after 5, what do you call him? A slave driver, right? But after 5 o'clock, you're your own identity, your own mitzias, you're your own person. And even in halacha, this is true. If you're a worker, if you're an employee, and you're on the job, and from 9 to 5, and you're driving from the office to the client's house, whatever it is, and you stop in a rest stop, and you see cash on the floor. And there's no symbol to know whose it belongs to. According to halacha, can you pick it up? Is it yours?
Yes.
It belongs to you. How about if it's a slave? The second you pick it up, it belongs to the master. You don't have your own identity. Your whole you, even when you're sleeping, you belong to the master. So basically, when I say a slave, and you think of the slaves in America and the slaves, Jewish people being slaves to Paro in Egypt, you think of someone who's really working hard, exerting themselves, going beyond their nature to do it. Whether they like it or not, really putting in a lot of energy and hard work and exerting themselves. That's a slave. You go, and it's difficult, and it's exertion, and it's beyond what is comfortable.
What he's saying, I said, we want to be like that, we want to be connected to Hashem, and we didn't get there yet.
Yeah. We want to be exerting ourselves for Hashem. Yes. We want to be an Oyved Elokim. We want to be serving Hashem. And we have to understand what that means.
Shouldn't think of it as that. Just that connection.
So yes, no, but the concept of exerting ourselves, the concept of schwitzing, the concept of going beyond our comfort zone,
We should think of.
that is what makes us serving Hashem. Now, as that it's a verb, it's an action. You're doing something. You could have there's
Doing something or you're being something. I thought you were saying the difference is that slave is like that you are. It's not just what you're doing. It's like
okay, excellent. Okay, so excellent question. There's serving, and then there's a servant. A servant means, at least spiritually speaking, that you already got there. Serving is that you're working on being a servant of Hashem. For example, you could say, so there's the verb, and then there's the adjective. For example, a person who becomes a king. Once he's a king, he's a king. He doesn't have to every single day reestablish his kingship. And there's no such thing as kinging. You're a king. Right? The same thing as a chacham. A chacham is a wise person, right? So you could say either you're a chacham, you already got there, you're a wise person, or you're mitchakem, that's the verb, is that you're acquiring knowledge, you're working on it, right? A doctor who's studying medicine, right? And you come to the doctor, that this is the doctor's practice, which is not so, we don't want someone's practicing on us, but basically a doctor is, once you already achieved it, now you're a doctor. Or you could be, or you could be in college becoming a doctor or learning how to be a doctor. So there's working on it, and then there's achieving it. There's doing, and then there's, okay, I got there. Yeah.
That he, well, because I'm gonna caress it, and it was called, he was already there, but, right? No?
Yeah, say it out.
Because it says in John Stone Essay that's why Moshe Rabbeinu was happy and satisfied, was because he was considered to be at the place of an Hashem.
Excellent. So let's read a little bit in the Tanya. Let's follow along. So what does it say? Shahefresh, the difference. Bein Oved Elakim leTzadik. What's the difference between someone who is serving Hashem and a tzaddik? Who? She'oved hu lashon hove. One who serves, serving, that's present tense. Shu be'emtza ha'avoda. He's in the middle of working. And what's this work? Shehi hamilchama im hara. This is the battle with the evil inclination. Lehizgaber alav, to overpower it. Ulegarshay, and to chase it away. Meha'ir ktana, from the small city. Every single one of us are compared to a small city, and we have two kings that are trying to rule over our city, the animal soul and the godly soul. And what's happening is an Oved Elokim, one who is serving, is constantly battling 24/7 to make sure that the godly soul is always going to win, and to conquer the Yetzer Hara, and to chase it away from the small city. Shala yislapesh be'evrei haguf, that the animal soul should not clothe itself in the limbs of the body. Basically, the animal soul should never get the keys to the car, should never sit in the driver's seat, that the animal soul should never get to use the thought, speech, and action. This is what it means, an Oved Elokim. And here, the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya, he says this. He acknowledges that this is very hard work. And he says, Shehu be'emes, it is truly avoda, work, ve'amal, and toil, gadol, great. It's great toil and great work. Lihilachem by tamid, to constantly be fighting the battle with the evil inclination. V'hainu ha-beinani, and this is the beinani. So again, within a beinani, there are two categories. One who is serving means he is constantly fighting and battling the Yetzer Hara, which is very hard work.
The other one, servant, one that arrives.
The servant The servant is the tzaddik.
Oh, but they said there's two categories in the beginning.
Yeah, so there's two, there's three categories altogether. There's the servant, that's the tzaddik. Serving is category one of a Benini, and then there's one who is not serving. What do you
Is
ask?
he like the employee, like the one that like,
Oh, the one who is not serving is someone who is not exerting any energy. It's all natural for him. So we're
means he
saying,
has perfect thought, speech and action, but he doesn't have to hustle. Is that what you're
Exactly.
saying? How does that happen?
okay, so that's what we're gonna learn today.
If he's not a tzaddik, otherwise the inside would be. So his inside is not pure, his thought, speech and action is perfect with every effort, how's that possible?
So we're gonna see inside. We're gonna see inside. That's where we're going. Okay, so I was sharing on the Zoom before the class started that my daughter Sprinza, her birthday was on Tuesday, and we have a tradition in our family that my husband always buys a bakery cake, and we have, after supper, we say the 12 psukim, we give tzedakah. 12 psukim are 12 Torah passages that the Rebbe encouraged children to know by heart, very fundamental passages from Tanakh, and also from Tanya. So we say the 12 Torah passages, we give tzedakah, we say the chapter of Tehillim according to the age of the child. That means she just turned 6, so we would say Kapitel Zayin for the upcoming year. So we have that tradition as well. And we sing happy birthday, and we have birthday cake. Now, this past Tuesday, my husband went to Crown Heights to pick up my two daughters they had just finished camp after going Monday to pick up two other kids. So it was 2 days in a row of going to New York and waiting, from between one kid and the other kid, and then straight to Tanya class, because Monday night, Tuesday night, he teaches Tanya. So it was a little bit hectic. And so I said to him, to make it easier, I said, maybe I'll stop, when I pick up the kids from the bus, I'll buy a cake. He said, sure. Now, I prefer ice cream cake over bakery cake, because not always is the bakery cake 100% fresh, whatever. So I went to the basement, I got a cooler. I put it into the car, I go to the ice cream store, I get the cake, I put it in the cooler, I come home. When I come home at 5 o'clock with sticky, hot, boiling, kvetchy kids, and my husband's at home, so on our porch, we have a big fridge and we have a small fridge, and in the small fridge, there's like a box that's like a place that could officially is a freezer, and it's already like I have to, I guess, unplug the freezer and defrost the whole thing, but it's already like the whole thing inside is frozen, and there was a bag of cauliflower in there that was frozen. So I said to Shmazi, I said, I don't want to bother you to start rummaging through the freezer and finding place for this big box. Just stick the box in the freezer on the porch, take out the cauliflower, put it in, it'll fit perfectly, and that's it. That was at 5 o'clock. 8 o'clock comes, my husband and the two other kids arrived, and we do all the spiritual stuff, and now it's time for the cake. He goes to the freezer, and the whole thing was melted. It was like a pancake. And I was like, oh my gosh, about to lose it. Because I felt so bad for this kid, and she was supposed to have a party in camp, and it didn't happen because they had a trip that day and they didn't have time. So like, whatever. Thank goodness I had gone to the toy store that day because I wanted to buy something for the kids for Tish B'Av to entertain them. I took that toy, I wrapped it up. I said, Sprinza, this is your birthday present. She was delighted beyond. And then we took the melted cake and we put it back in the freezer, and we had pancake, ice cream cake the next day, whatever. We still managed to do that. But anyway, but I learned a lesson. And that's why on the flyer of the Tanya class, you have a freezer with ice cream cone. Why? Because that's what it means to battle constantly. The cake has to constantly be in a working freezer that's exerting energy in order to have the cake. And if you don't have a working proper freezer that's exerting energy to work, then pun intended, you're not going to be able to serve the cake. So that's what it means to be an Oived
I like
Elokim.
to think that when you start serving again, you can get that thing of cake once it's flat. You're not gonna get that.
You're not. You're not. So it's not. So I was telling my daughter this on the way here, and she said, Ma, she said she saw it completely differently. She said, first of all, she said this concept of struggling, that constant struggle, constantly battling the evil inclination to make sure that it doesn't get to have any control of thought, speech, and action. She says, Ma, she says, how about, she says, I don't like the word struggling. She says, investing. She says, investing. She says, in my stage of life, she's very wise. She has two children, a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old. And she says, in my stage of life, I wish I could tell everyone, like my friends, whatever it is. She says, you get married and we think we're never going to argue with our husband. Everything's going to always be perfect, right? And then she says, I wish I could tell everyone that the way you get closer to your spouse is by exerting energy and investing in the relationship. And not always is it, is it tangible, the investment, but she says that's how you really grow. That's how you really grow. If you never have an argument and everything is smooth sailing and you think alike on everything, including money and it's so easy for you to relinquish all the control to your husband. He's going to take care of all the bills and I don't have to worry about it. But so I'm saying everyone in their marriage has different, there's a different dynamic, whatever it is. But she was going on and saying this concept. First of all, she was using this word investment. She says, but the ice cream, the freezer, she says that's not a good muscle because the longer you put in the freezer, there's no advantage. The longer that it's in the freezer, the better the cake is going to become. She says, now you have to think of a different muscle. But basically what's happening is that every time there's a struggle and we overcome it, we're investing in our relationship with Hashem. And we're getting closer and closer and closer. So and that's in our relationship with anybody, with a spouse, and especially with Hashem. There's and without the struggle, in a marriage, you can't have a marriage without people putting in effort. You say that not that each person should put in 50%. Each person, the husband and the wife, each put in 100%. You have to invest in the marriage. You have to work. You have to put in, that's how you can have a beautiful marriage. And you want to invest in the marriage. My daughter Rachi, she's married how many weeks? 4 or 5 weeks? I don't know. She says, so they were doing, WhatsApp video, whatever. So one daughter came home and she's chopping a salad and she's video calling her sister, and Rachi, she's chopping potatoes. So they're both talking to each other, each one with the chopping board they're chopping. So I said to Rachi the next day, I was like, you were chopping so many potatoes, like you have enough for the whole week? She says, no, Ma. She said, we almost finished. She says, Ma, all I'm doing is cooking. Whatever. Last week she stayed home for Shabbos and she made her own Shabbos, but this week she's coming. So I guess she realized that the commute in the car is shorter than cooking herself. But anyway, the point is that she said, all I'm doing is cooking. But the thing is that yes, it's exerting and it takes energy to what am I going to make for dinner and the dishes and the before and the after and the putting everything away, whatever it is. Yes, it's exerting. Yes, it's exerting, but it's building. It's building on a relationship. It's investing in the relationship. And the same is with this Oived Elikim. He's serving. Yeah, it takes work to clean the house, to cook, to do the laundry after the 9 days. That's very exerting. But I'm saying we're constantly have to be on our game. We can't just say, okay, today I'm taking a break. I'm not putting any effort into this marriage, into this family, or into this house. It's constant. It's constant. So this is what it means to be an oved, to be serving. Yes, it's a struggle. So if you don't like the word struggle, you could use the word investment, like Mushka used. What is it?
Your 401k fund.
What do you mean?
You're investing in it and you'll get it back after
Yeah.
Instead of saying a freezer, you're saying you need a different.
Yes, it has to be something that the more investment, the more
Put it in slowly over time.
Yeah.
Take it out of your paycheck every week,
Yeah. So ultimately, right. So ultimately, that's how you get growth. That's how you get growth. If there was no, if there's no marriage and there's no, you just have cereal and milk every night for supper because there's no one to cook for, then there's no growth. There's no growth either. Okay. So the easy life is not always good for us. Because if it's just everything's so easy, then there's no opportunity for growth. Okay. Um, and as he said, the Alter Rebbe, he says how difficult it is. There's a story of Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev. It was on Yom Kippur, and a good rabbi is one that can make his congregants cry a little. If he shed a few tears, then he made a good speech. So he stands up in the shul and he starts making a speech, and he says, Hashem, it's true. We weren't perfect. We didn't live up to all of your expectations. But Hashem, it's your fault. So when he said we didn't live up to your expectations, the people are already, starting to cry a little. As soon as he says, Hashem, it's your fault. Everyone's walking away from the windows because they're afraid that the lightning is going to strike, which is a joke. Anyway, so he says, it's your fault. He says, you put all the temptations of the world on the billboards and the Torah in the books. If you put the Torah on the billboards and the temptations in the book, then maybe we'd be fulfilling your expectations a little bit better. So yeah, it's very, very tough out there. It's very, very tough to fight that battle. Yeah. Whatever it is, you know what I mean? Yeah, if you would put the temptations in the book, then we wouldn't have it, we wouldn't let you down. So basically, the Alter Rebbe is acknowledging how difficult it is to be this Oived, to be the one serving Hashem 24/7.
That just makes it even that much better when you achieve what you're trying to achieve. Because it was harder, so it's even a better reward.
Right.
Or better.
It's the effort. That's what this chapter is teaching us. The value of effort. And also it's very important to understand that even if we're not there yet, we might not be a Beinoni yet, but this is advice for every single person. The value of effort. And my class on Wednesday, so the hostess, she said to me, she said, why is it that my whole life I was taught that if you have a struggle, it's a bad thing? And my heart broke for her, because Tanya is saying the exact opposite.
What?
It's true.
If you're struggling with something, then it's an opportunity for you to be serving Hashem.
But sometimes you don't see it until afterwards, and you can see in the rearview mirror.
Yeah. And we all have parts in our life where we don't struggle, and parts of our life where we do struggle. But in the area of where we struggle, instead of saying, why am I still struggling with this? I should just give up. I'm worthless that I still have to struggle with this. But struggling is actually a blessing.
It's our strength. That's what makes us better than our luck, and that's what Hashem wants us.
Right. Because only in the area where I struggle, that's where I could be serving Hashem. If I'm not struggling with it, then I'm not serving. I'm just being me. This is my nature. And if I'm just being me and this is my nature, then I'm not serving. Serving means exerting energy, going beyond your comfort zone. That's what it means, serving.
That just have it easy. It could just be like,
yes. So there's
a jealous of people.
Yeah, exactly. There's a disadvantage of having everything easy. There's a disadvantage.
It's like a diamond is not a diamond before it is polished and whatever they do to it. Diamond in the rough, that's what makes a diamond.
Right.
The struggle, the rough part.
And if you have an easy nature, then what's demanded of you is to find the area, to strive for something that's above your nature. Right? There's something because that's where the prize is.
Exactly.
That's where the investment is. That's where the growth is, in the struggle.
Well, you just said before, just relating this to the billboard and the book. It's in the book, so it's harder to find. You have to put an effort in to find it, to study it, to follow it. That's what makes it better. If it was on the billboard, it'd be too easy. You might not even pay attention to it.
Right.
So that's.
Yeah.
that's what Rabbi Stephen was saying about this whole Tanya, which is the hidden Torah. Like that's where
Yeah, Tanya is a hidden.
Tanya is like this.
Hasidus is the secrets of Torah. You have to dig for it.
You have to dig for it and then the rewards.
Yeah. Right. Excellent. Okay. So a tzaddik is someone who's an eved. He already won the battle. He already won the battle. He already finished fighting. There's no evil is no longer there. Like the king, who no longer has to fight to establish his position, he's already there. Okay, so let's continue this. I'll see it inside. A tzaddik nikra eved Hashem, b'shem atayar. A tzaddik is called the servant of Hashem with an adjective. Kimoi shem chacham melech, like the name chacham, a wise person, or king. He's already there. He's already a chacham. He's already a king. Shekvar nasa chacham melech. He already became a chacham, a wise person, or a king. Kach ze kvar avad. In the same way, he already served. He already did the service. The gamar legamre avodas hamachama imhara, and he completely completed the battle, the work of the battle with the evil. Until the evil was chased away and left. And his heart is empty within him, because he has no Yetzer Hara on the left side of his heart anymore. Okay. So you're going to say, okay, so now the tzaddik, okay, now he can take a rest. He's already there, not serving. But rather, once you're a tzaddik, you're already on another playing field. So you don't get to take a rest. Now you have a new mission. Rabbi Soloveitchik gives an example. He says, when you're a kid and your mother says you can't have a third helping of ice cream before you have dinner, so you actually cry about it. Thank you. So you kvetch and you cry, and you don't understand why you can't have ice cream before dinner or for dinner. But comes a point, maybe it takes till you're 75 years old, but eventually comes a point where you realize that ice cream before dinner is not a good idea. But once you have that maturity, now there's a new struggle. Now there's something new. Now you have to, watch your weight or be on a diet or exercise, whatever it is. So don't think, just because I've graduated at Beinoni, now I could take a rest. Because now once you're an eved, once you're a servant, now there's a whole new job for you to do. It's a different playing field. You have the little leagues, you have the big leagues, whatever it is. The tzaddik doesn't get to.
Still a struggle?
So it's not the same work. It's a different mission. It's not the same struggle, because we said that the tzaddik, the struggle is not something that he's not battling within him, but now he has to struggle against the whole world. Now he has to battle for the Jewish people against everything that all the everything that the Jewish, he has to be an advocate for all the Jewish people, for every Jewish person on every corner of the world. So it's a different kind of struggle, fighting for fighting for Israel, fighting for our freedom, fighting for halacha, fighting for Torah, So it's a different fight. It's not an internal fight. But it's still a lot of work, even for a tzaddik. And a tzaddik is a servant.
Like a Revelation religion, he would be an example also, right? Like that he probably didn't have internal struggle.
Right. He's advocating for the Jewish people. Yes, 100%. Yes, excellent example. Let's go with this show. So I'll give you another example of a tzaddik. There was a big.
Right. No, because like sometimes when you look at something, they're like, so what do they need Yom Kippur for? What do they do already that they need to do teshuvah for? So to explain it that way, like. Explains like that there are totally different playing field. They're advocating that whether that's where their growth still could be.
Exactly. So there's in this world there's always growth. We always have to grow, no matter where we are. Also, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, right, he wasn't just davening for himself; he was davening on behalf of all the Jewish people to get kapara, forgiveness for all the Jewish people. So that's the role of a tzaddik. There's a story of Reb Shmuel Munkis. He was a big chassid, and he had a humorous side to him. And what happened was they were having a farbringen. Farbringen is a Hasidic get together. Everyone's supposed to be so spiritual and thinking about the connection to Hashem, etc., etc. All of a sudden, the butcher walked in with some farbisen, with some food for the event, and he brought some delicious meat, and everyone got super excited over the meat. And I'm sure Munkus took it as if he's gonna, plate it for everyone, and he starts dancing around with the meat, like kind of like teasing the people, coming closer and then drawing further away, and everyone's getting so mad at him, and they're like pouncing on him basically for the meat. He took the meat and he dumped it into the dirty, filthy garbage. And that was the end of it. And they were furious at him. And he said, "How could you do this? Get onto the table. We're going to give you a few pets. We're going to punish you for, ruining our party over here for wasting all this meat." And then a little while later, the butcher comes running in. He says, "I'm so sorry. I hope no one ate it. The meat was really not kosher. There was a mistake. There was an animal that we shechted today, and we found there's a problem with it, and the meat got mixed up. And we hope that you didn't eat it." And they said, "Yeah, we didn't eat it." And so he said, "Oh, Shmuel, what do you think you are? You're a tzaddik? You're playing a tzaddik. How did you know that the meat wasn't that meat was treif, and he didn't tell us that it wasn't treif? Get back on the table. We're gonna hit you again for for trying to play this tzaddik game." But really, he said, I'll tell you. He said, "We're middle for bringing. Everyone is supposed to be in a spiritual high. The fact that all of a sudden everyone's going crazy over the meat, it didn't smell good. The Yetzer Hara had to have been here. I didn't know if it was treif, it wasn't treif. I knew that there's a problem with the meat, and I got rid of it. So a tzaddik is someone who, as you said, an eved, his whole metzius, his whole essence is one with Hashem. So did he know it was treif, it wasn't treif? He sensed this is poison. This is not good, and he got rid of it. It was just his whole. There was a certain intuition that he had that this meat wasn't good. So that's what I'm just trying to say, that a tzaddik is already on another playing field, that he has this total oneness with Hashem, that if the meat is not good, he just senses it in his kishkis. He just senses it in his being. It's like that was his like automatic response. It was just so part of him. Okay. So now I have to go back to our question. How can you be pious and not serving? Right? That's our question. Okay, so let's continue inside. How we're doing this time. Uva Beinani. With the Beinani, yesh gam kein shtei madregos. There are two levels. Oived Elokim, one who is serving, v'asher lo yavadei, and one who does not serve. Va'afal pikein einei rasha. Even though he is not serving, he is not a rasha. He's a Beinani. Why? Ki loy avar miyamav shum avera klal. I'm sorry, shum avera kala. He never in his life transgressed any transgression, even something that's very easy, even a very minor transgression. This person who is not serving never transgressed even a minor transgression. What's a minor transgression? You say a minor transgression is anything that I do. That's minor. Just a joke. So a minor transgression, for example, a transgression is you're not allowed to say lashon hara. You're not allowed to speak bad about someone. But then there's a minor transgression. It's called avak lashon hara, the dust of lashon hara. What does it mean? What does it mean? You're not saying anything bad, but you're starting to stir up trouble. For example, if there's two individuals, one is Reuven and one is Shimon, and they don't see eye to eye, and Reuven did a really good business deal. For you to go to Shimon and say, "Guess what I heard? I heard that Reuven just made a lot of money. He just, got did a really good business deal." You didn't say anything bad about anyone, But since Shimon doesn't like the guy, you're starting to you're starting to push buttons. What's going to happen is Shimon is going to say, "Oh yeah, oh for sure he made a lot of money, but oh I bet he's never going to give charity anyway, or whatever it is." You're instigating.
It's not on this, but we'll find something
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah. So that's a vakal shnara. So that's would be a minor transgression. So this individual who's a benoni but is not serving, he never even transgressed even a small avera, even a small transgression. And v'gam kiem kol ha-mitzvahs. Also, he fulfilled all of the mitzvahs she'ef shalei l'kaiman, which he is able to fulfill. So we know that there are 613 commandments, but not all of them is it possible for us to fulfill today, because some of them have to do with the Beis Hamikdash and with sacrifices, and some have to do with a Kohen. So not all mitzvahs pertain to every single Jew in today's day and age. But this individual, this Beni who is not serving, fulfilled every single mitzvah that's possible for him to fulfill. And what's the mitzvah that can be done? You see, to eat matzah on Pesach, or to shake a little of an esrog on Sukkot, that can't be done all the time. Which mitzvah could be done all the time? Learning Torah. He said this individual, not only did he never sin, not only did he do every single mitzvah that's possible for him to do, but he never wastes any time. Any free time that he has, he learns Torah. That's what it says here.
It sounds like a tzaddik, this guy.
It sounds like a tzaddik.
I'm saying he's not even serving Hashem.
I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't get this.
Okay, we're working on it.
No, but didn't you say like a Vietnamese struggles? It sounds like a tzaddik to me here.
The reason why he's not a tzaddik is because he never went out of his comfort zone. He never schwitzed for Hashem. You can't jump. You can't just jump to be a tzaddik. Okay, some people are born with the potential to be a tzaddik, but there are a lot of tzaddikim that they become a benoni, they become the best they could be, and then they get the gift of a tzaddik. But a benoni is someone who's actively struggling every single second. But there are people. We're gonna instead of me
sound like he's struggling.
Okay, so okay, he's not struggling. That's okay.
That's why he's a lower.
So we're building a case. We're
He's learning hard every minute, but it's not hard for him. He's
Yeah.
not fighting to be able to do it. He's just doing it.
right. So instead of me saying it, I'm gonna read the words of the Tanya, because we're smack in the middle. We're building the case. We're asking such a strong question. How could you be? This is your question. This is exactly what we're asking. You're a benoni, but you're not serving, even though you never did any sin in your life. You did every positive mitzvah that came your way that you were able to do, and you never wasted your time. That's exactly what we're asking. And he never wastes time. And it says v'talmud Torah k'neged kulam. Talmud Torah is equivalent to all the mitzvahs. V'loi pasik pume migirsa, which means he does not allow his mouth to stop studying Torah. This phrase, we've seen it in chapter 1 about Rabbah. Rabbah said to himself, for example, I'm a benoni, and his student said, "How could you say that you're a benoni? Because if you say you're a benoni, then what does that leave all of us to be?" So how could you make a mistake that he's a benoni if he was constantly learning Torah? He was, because when you're constantly learning Torah, then your animal soul is sleeping and not bothering you and not tempting you. So he didn't know if he had conquered it or if it was just sleeping. But we've seen this phrase before. But this individual who's not a servant of Hashem, even though he's a benoni, even though he never stops learning Torah, he's in his car and he's stuck in traffic, his lips are moving. He's listening to a podcast of a class. He's not just, wasting time. Ella, but despite the fact that he's absolute master over his thought, speech, and action, this benoni is classified as one who does not serve God for a simple reason. Because he is not actively fighting his Yetzer Hara at all to overcome it. And how would a benoni overcome it? Al yedei or Hashem hameir al nefesh alakis shebamayach hashalt al lev. He is not making use of the godly light which shines on his divine soul, within his brain to empower him to rule over the urges of his heart, as described above. Okay, so what happens? A regular Beinoni who has a struggle, what does he have to do? He needs the light of Hashem to light up his animal soul, to light up his godly soul, to give him clarity to not just follow his impulse. For example, what's the difference between an animal and a person? An animal is hungry. He has an impulse. He wants to eat. Now he has options, a bunch of, this is the lion. He's hungry. He wants to find prey. He wants to eat. So what's he going to do? He sees what's the easiest prey, and he's going to go attack that animal, whatever is easiest, and that's going to be his lunch. The same thing is with human beings. You could have a person who has a brain in his head, and is expected a person. Okay, an animal also has a brain, but the animal uses his brain in order to get what he wants, the impulse. He has an impulse for something, and the brain helps him get there. But a human being is expected, and an animal is on 4. His brain and his heart are on the same level. But a human being will expect more of a human being. His brain is above his heart. If you're a businessman, right, and you see there's a very easy target, I have an impulse to make money. I see a very easy target. That guy, I could buy out his business. I could convince him he's a very easy prey. I could convince him to sell to that he should sell me his business. I'll pay him off, whatever it is, and then I'm going to be so successful. That's easy prey. I have an impulse, and I'm going to go with my impulse. That would not be the right thing to do. What does a Beinoni do? The light of Hashem shines on his godly soul and gives him clarity and say, that's not nice. That's not nice. What I should do is I should invest in that guy. And that way we could both be successful. Instead of buying him out, invest with him. If you think he could be successful, you like his product, invest with him. So that's what a Beinoni does. He has an impulse, he has an urge. And yes, even a businessman could be a Beinoni. He has an urge, but the light of his neshama, the light of Hashem shines on his godly soul to give him the clarity to have his mind rule over his heart and to do the right thing. So this individual who's not serving, he doesn't have a desire for money, if that could be, It doesn't, and we're gonna give more examples, and we're gonna describe this person who's not a servant of Hashem. He doesn't have to call on this light of Hashem to light on his soul to give him the clarity to use to not follow his impulse, because it doesn't even have the impulse. Let's see what it says. Because in this case, his Yetzirah doesn't challenge him at all. To draw him away from his study or his worship. So he doesn't have to fight it at all. Kigain, for example, Shehu Masmid Bilimudai Bitivai Mitailadai. You know what a Masmid is? What's a Masmid? Someone who's constantly learning Torah, you call him a masmid. I didn't realize this, but in the word masmid is the word tamid, which means always. He's always learning Torah. So this individual, for example, is a person whose inherent nature is to study constantly. Alidei tigbayres hameresh chayra. A meresh chayra is an expression for someone who has more of like a introvert, more of a depressed nature, doesn't have such a joyful life. So the way he's wired, yeah, everything's dark. Moira Shchira actually means a gallbladder. That's a mara. Mara is a gallbladder. So there are some people that have a dark gallbladder or a light gallbladder. So a dark gallbladder is someone who has more of by nature is more reserved or more not a social butterfly. So Mara Shchira is an expression for someone who's like sad and depressed and like a negative person. A negative person or a person who always sees like a pessimistic kind of person. So by nature he doesn't have the joy for life. It doesn't interest him to spend time with friends and to go on vacation and what's the latest gadget. It doesn't interest him. That's just how he's wired. That's just how he's created. V'chein ein lei milchama mitayvus nashim, as well as a person who does not have to wrestle with a strong desire for women. There was a rabbi who was walking, I don't know what he was doing there, but there was one rabbi that sees another rabbi sitting by the beach. So he says to him, you really shouldn't be sitting by the beach. I mean, there are people that are walking around that are not dressed modestly. So he says, I could sit by the beach. Seeing women not dressed modestly doesn't do anything to me. So in that case, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. If you could see women walking around in a modest way and and you're not attracted to anything and you have no thoughts that come to your head, then there's something wrong with you. So they're talking about a person who doesn't have the regular temptations for ice cream. You give him ice cream, but ice cream to him is like mud. It doesn't talk to him. So basically, he never went out of his comfort zone for one day because he likes to learn. He's a bookworm. It's easy for him. This is his nature. So yeah, he's perfect. He's the goody-goody. He was born that way. They say a story, there was a guy.
Why is that his fault?
It's not his fault.
So where is he supposed to be struggling?
So that's the thing.
Where is his service supposed to be then?
So basically, we're defining this. I mean, is there a person that doesn't have any temptations?
Not that I know.
Right? But we're defining it in order to teach us a lesson. The lesson is that for all of us, wherever we may be in our service of God, the power and the advantage of not having everything smooth and easy. The advantage of a struggle, because only when there's a struggle, only when you're going out of your nature, only when you're going out of your comfort zone, are you serving Hashem. You could be the perfect goody-goody. The thing is that we measure success based on where you are, not based on where you came from.
Also, in today's society, it's very hard because there is no value in struggle. It used to be they washed their laundry in the lake. Everything was a struggle. Life was about struggle. Today, everything is about convenience and easy. So people don't see the merit in struggling for something. Like it's much harder in today's society to actually enjoy the process of the work.
Right. So, for example, you could have two different types of teachers. One teacher loves the smart kids. All the kids, they get an A, 100 on the test, even a 90. It's great. But then there's a teacher who loves the kids that fail. Because the kids that are getting 100, they're just very, very smart. And whether you taught them or someone else taught them, they would still get 100. They're just very bright kids. They read the information and they got it. But the teacher who loves the kids who are failing is because that's where she could work. That's where she could do something. If the kid who gets a 35 in the test and the teacher is able to teach them and encourage them, and the kid who got a 35 to get a 70, that's huge. That's where there's work. That's where that's where you accomplish something. That's where you did something. The kid who gets an A because they're brilliant, what did you do? What did you do? So the value of the work, a kid could be born rich. The rich kid in the class who has every gadget and the fanciest backpack and everything else and the fancy snacks, whatever it is. And we say, oh, wow, he's so successful. The kid didn't do anything to earn the money. And we say, oh, wow, he's the most popular kid in the class because he has everything that he has, the right shoes and the right backpack and the right this and the right that. But so we say, oh, wow, he's so successful. But that kid in life, might have a very different, the story might be very different than someone who came from a home where they didn't have a lot of money and he had to struggle and then he appreciates the money and it's a whole different. And going back to the experiment of the marshmallow, there's some kids that eat the marshmallow right away. And there's some kids that can have the patience to wait 15 minutes and then get a second marshmallow. So not always the fact that you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth is that the easy life, is that an advantage for you? Because where is the growth? If you were born on top of the mountain, compared to a guy who climbed Mount Everest, he climbs Mount Everest and he sees a boy sitting there. He says, "How did you get here? I worked my whole life to get to the top of the mountain." Well, I was born here. And the same is with religious Jews, right? You were born there, versus someone who struggled to get there. It's not about where you are. It's about where you came from. And that's the message of this chapter. The message of the chapter is it's not good enough to be good. If you want to be if you want to be serving Hashem, it has to come with a little bit of pressure, a little bit of sweating, a little bit of exerting yourself. You have to be working, and even a slave. You have to be working like a slave, and working hard in order for you to be considered serving.
But isn't that like every day of our lives because we're struggling to control our thoughts, speech, and action?
Excellent.
A constant thing. Like when I think of struggle, I don't just think of like, oh, I don't have enough money, I have to work hard, or those. I think of more like emotional things, or tragedies happen, because that's anybody's life, no matter how much money you have or where you were born, whether you're
100%, understand. So yes, we're struggling every single day, and therefore we are serving God. So we're contrasting that with someone who's not serving because he just doesn't have a desire for the things that most people desire. Okay, because he is passionless by nature. He doesn't have passion. It's actually sad. And likewise with other worldly pleasures, he naturally lacks a strong feeling of enjoyment. Okay, that's it. Then we're stopping inside. All Yetzer Haras are not the same, and some put up a weak fight. While a minimal level of love and reverence of God is still necessary to stay on track, those emotions could come naturally without the need for major spiritual work. Such a case is called one who does not serve God. Okay, so we're going to stop from inside. I just want to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. Okay. So I'll just end up with one little thing, and that is, okay, so basically what we're saying is that, you could look at it, if a person doesn't have a desire for something, that it's like a child that's gifted, gifted child, either, he's very smart or he has a lot of money, whatever it is, but that's not what true success is. And also, we shouldn't waste time driving ourselves crazy. What level am I on? Am I on this level? Am I on that level? There's a story of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He lived 120 years. And on his deathbed, he had all of his Talmidim around him. And he said, Eini yodea, I don't know, be'ezeh derech malichan osi, which path I will be led after he passes away. So the question is, what do you mean he doesn't know which path he's going to be led on? He was a huge tzaddik. He had so many students. Of course, he's going to go straight to Gan Eden, not a question. And the explanation is that he was so busy working, serving Hashem, that he never took the time to stop and think, where am I? What am I going to get? And assess, assess what's going to be after 120. And only on his deathbed, right, moments before he's passing away, is it first entering his head, okay, where am I going? So our job is to be oived, to be serving, for sure, not to judge other people and even ourselves. Yes, we have to make an assessment to see where we're holding in our relationship with Hashem, but not to not to get stuck. Am I a tzaddik? Am I a rasha? Am I a beinoni? Where am I? But just the main thing is to keep working, serving, growing, doing, learning, and being the best that we could be. Okay, we'll stop here.
Thank you very much.
Okay. But the amazing advantage of learning inside is that we have the confidence now to review, and the best notes is the Tanya itself. Right? Okay, thank you, Siri. Thank you, Chami, for joining us. And the next class will be in Yerushalayim. Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Oh, but maybe-
All the best. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
First two is if you learn, but